Hello everyone, welcome to my Last of Us Remastered, grounded difficulty, no damage, no crafting, no upgrades, no safes, no shiv doors, no training manuals walkthrough, and this is the final chapter, which is Salt Lake City. And this is a very easy chapter. You can get most of this chapter done without ever having to fire your weapons, and there's only two situations in the game where you need to fire your weapons. The two situations in question are when you boost Ellie over and you have that one clicker trying to attack her, and also when that Firefly busts through the door and you have to shoot him with your revolver. Those are the only situations where you need to use your weapons. Every other section, you can get them done without ever needing to fire your weapons. And this part right here looks very intimidating, but it's actually very simple. And for some reason, the game gives you flamethrower feel behind this this railing over here, like right there. But I'm not going to use my flamethrower whatsoever. It's completely pointless. There is no reason to use your weapons in this sequence. If you're using your weapons, you're doing this section all wrong. And I can't imagine why you would ever want to use your weapons in this sequence, especially when they put in a bunch of runners, a bunch of clickers, and a bunch of bloaters. There are a lot of bloaters in this section, but they can easily be avoided, and as much as bloaters do die very quickly on this game, if you use your resources intelligently, you would never want to put yourself in a position where you're wanting to do that. Like, why impact the pacing of this section by just going out of your way to kill a pointless enemy? You know, as I stated before in my Resident Evil 6 walkthrough, that's why I don't like kill-all runs, because every time I watch kill-all runs, they're always incredibly boring because they drag out the gameplay so much, and there's no gracefulness whatsoever, and somehow that comes across as being, like, professional gameplay, when it almost feels like something, you know, some reckless individual would do, someone who's just very keen on blowing stuff up. You're expecting to find a lot of skill out of that? That just seems very baffling to me. But after you kill those three runners, sneak along this side. I normally just climb up on the truck, and there is a training manual you can pick up, but I just choose to go this way for some reason. It doesn't matter. You can just sneak along the left-hand side, and there is a clicker in front of you, but don't worry about it. This is not like Last of Us Part 2, where the enemies can still hear you while you're crouching or when you're prone if you get too close to them. And I actually discovered a really cool method for moving very fast in The Last of Us Part 2 while still remaining very quiet. And what it involves you doing is being in a prone status, holding L1 so that your character will just get up off the ground and it makes no noise, and then you hold circle during the animation and you dive to prone and you gain a lot of momentum, and it allows you to move incredibly fast during these stealth encounters and not make any noise. I mean, because you're standing up, you will be seen by the enemies a little bit, so that's the one downside to using it, but if you're using that move intelligently, you can get through the stealth encounters of The Last of Us Part 2 very quickly. Although with the strategies that I laid out in my walkthrough for The Last of Us Part 2, there's really no need for you to use that. I mean, where that kind of situation of using L1 and then holding circle to dive to prone can be useful is during combat, when you're in melee combat with multiple enemies. Because you can dodge, and then you can hold circle while moving the left analog stick in a particular direction to dive to prone, and that will delay the enemies from attacking you, and they will be forced to do the animation where they try to attack you while you're prone, and it's a very slow animation. Although I have had times where it's been a very fast animation, but that's only when I've been very close to the enemies while I'm prone. So that's the one downside to doing that particular method, but I can't imagine why you would ever be in a situation where you're fighting multiple enemies in melee combat, because the melee combat in the Last of Us series is built for one-on-one encounters, not for dealing with multiple enemies. Although the dodge system in The Last of Us Part 2 afforded a lot more fluidity of movement, and it allowed you to get out of these one-on-one engagements very easily compared to this game, where your movement is kind of rigid because you can't dodge in this game. But again, the only time you're ever going to find yourself in such situations is if you yourself put yourself in that situation. So there's really no excuse you can give as to why you would ever put yourself in a position where you're going to get attacked by multiple enemies in melee combat. But I'm going to pause in this tangent right now because we have this final encounter right here, which is so much better than the final encounter that The Last of Us 2 provides. Because the final encounter with the Rattlers, it was just a section that did not have a lot of grace to it, and there were just a lot of questionable design choices that really brought down the quality of the final section of the game. But this one is flawless. You can get through this entire Firefly section killing only one Firefly, and you can choose to not kill the Firefly that busts through the door by using an underpowered weapon, but I can't imagine why you would ever want to do that. And you could probably use a bricker bottle, but the bricker bottle takes quite a while to travel, so you're gonna get shot most likely if you choose to use a brick or a bottle. And by the way, there is no checkpoint for this entire sequence. You have to do this whole entire sequence without fail. And I only made that transition just then because on my no commentary version, I did examine a lot of collectibles, and it wasn't necessary to include those moments in my commentated version. But when you get over here, you need to sprint so that the enemies on the left side don't see you, and then hide over here. You need to wait for this guy to go back to the left, and then that is your opportunity to get past him. And there is going to be a guy in front of you, but he most of the time is going to be walking away from you. So it allows you to set up in that cover spot right in front of me, so that when he goes past me, I can get past him. And then this is the part where I assumed originally that you need a smoke bomb, but it turns out if you wait for the enemies that are just walking around the room to my left to not be looking at you, you can mantle on the right hand side of this mantle point and then mantle over the barricade and completely avoid the enemies that are taking cover, and you will completely skip the section without the need for a smoke bomb. And you have just done this final part of the game, and this is a really fun encounter. This is perfect. I just don't understand why they opted for the kind of section that they chose to go for with the second Last of Us. But once you've done this sequence, all that's left to do now is escape with Ellie. And once you have escaped with Ellie, that will be the end of this game. So this will be the end of my Last of Us remaster, grounded difficulty. No damage, no crafting, no upgrades, no safes, no shift doors, no training manuals walkthrough. This is truly one of the best games ever made, with some very satisfying gameplay, a very satisfying story, absolutely memorable characters, emotional music, and it's truly one of a kind. I'm so glad to have covered this game on my channel. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.
I said get back! Hey, stop!